In this section, we want to take a look at the PowerShell Integrated Scripting Engine, or ISE. So I'm going to go to Tools in Server Manager, and I'm going to open PowerShell ISE. A few other sections in this course have and will cover PowerShell ISE, but to look at that again, a few of the configurations. This commands pane on the right-hand side gives me a list of all the modules installed on my server. I'm going to scroll down that list until I find one named SMB Share. Well, if I want to share a folder, if I want to look at a shared folder, this SMB Share is what I can use. For example, if I want to view every shared folder on my machine, I can type get-SMB Share. Now, in this list, this gives me a list of all the commands that start with get SMB. I'm going to type S. So I could just tab through these or click SMB Share in the list, and that's what I'll do. I'll just click that. So my get SMB Share. This lists every shared folder on my machine presently. Well, on my machine, I'm going to go to the root of the C drive, and there is a shared folder named Sales Data at the root of the C drive. Now that folder is not shared at the moment. If we go to the properties of that folder, on the sharing tab, notice it says network path, not shared, sales data, not shared. When I also ran the get-SMB share command, you'll see the name of the shares here and you see the path. Well, the sales data is not in the path. Now, I know the command I could run to actually create a shared folder, but let's say you don't know the command, but you know what you want to do. In the PowerShell ISE, I can go to the SMB share, and this gives me every command that I can actually use within SMB. Well, if I want to create a new share, new SMB share is in the list. If I select Show Details, I can specify the name of the share. Now, I'm going to name it Sales. In the path, I specify the path of the shared folder itself. In my case, that is C:/sales data. Now there's a space between the words sales and data in the name of that folder. When you share a folder, it's actually a good idea not to include spaces, an underscore perhaps. But I included a space there, so if I want to leave the space, I have to wrap this in quotations. If not, it's going to read up to the C sales, and it's going to think that's where the name actually ends. Well, I'm going to click Insert. When I click Insert, it builds out the exact PowerShell commandlet for me. So I can just hit Enter, and it's going to share the sales data folder on my C drive, and the share name of the folder will be Sales. So if someone were to browse the network, they're just going to see a folder named Sales. Well, I'm going to hit Enter for that, and it tells me that that is now shared. If I run this get-SMB share command again, I'm going to do that by hitting the up arrow twice, and it just recycles through the history of my previous commands. When I run get-SMB share, notice Sales is now in the list. If I navigate back to the sales folder itself, or sales data actually is the name of the folder, if I go to the sharing tab, notice it now says sales data is a shared folder. If I click on advanced sharing, you'll see the name I specified for the share. It's actually not uncommon in production networks for a folder to have a very detailed name, but the share name that users see may be a more basic or simplistic name. Well, an example of that would be my folder name Sales Data. I may want that presented to my users as just Sales. So I'll just cancel those windows there. We just wanted to view that it actually was now a shared folder. If I wanted to build a script that would do this, I could come here and click Copy on the right-hand side in the commands pane, and it would take this syntax and it would copy it to the clipboard. I could then take that and paste it in Notepad. Now I would have a script. Save that Notepad file with a .ps1 extension, and I would have a PowerShell script that I could run at any time. When I look at the list of commandlets, just for SMB, that's a pretty long list of commandlets in that box there. And I also have a list of modules. Another example, since we're already in this tool, there's a VPN client here in the list. We've not yet covered VPNs, but a VPN is a client that gives me the ability to go home, and I have this client on my computer that lets me connect back to my corporate network. So if I need to access a file server, an application inside my network, I can go home and have access to the same application. The concern is security. I want to make sure that no one can hack that connection. I want to make sure all the traffic's encrypted. Well, if I want to do that, I just install a VPN client on my machine. Now, many of these exist. Cisco, Juniper, dozens of manufacturers or vendors for VPN clients are out there, including Microsoft. Well, if I want to create a VPN client, but I don't know the PowerShell syntax for it, I can just go to the module VPN client, and I know what I want to do. I want to add a VPN client. So I'm going to choose Add VPN Connection, Show Details, and this box will just ask me, well, what do you want to name the connection? Since we're doing this through PowerShell, I'm just going to put PS-VPN client, just so we know it's the one we created through PowerShell in case I have others installed on the machine. It also asks, what's the IP address that my client should connect to? So what machine back on my corporate network accepts all these connections from my users when they are working from home? I'm going to just make up an address, 20.1.1.67. I could also specify authentication protocols. We'll just pick something in the list. That's not really our concern, the authentication protocols. We're more interested in how this works through PowerShell. I could also choose my encryption level. Now, we'll just say we require encryption for this, so it's secure. I could even specify these other protocols for tunneling, but again, that's not a concern for us. That's something we see in the remote access section. I'm going to just choose automatic here. What we are concerned with, when I click insert, it builds out the entire PowerShell line. So if I needed to script this through PowerShell, but I had no idea what the syntax is, instead of spending hours on Google trying to cobble some command line together and then testing it, I could simply come here. So as long as you're familiar with how a tool actually works and you just want to know the syntax of it, come here, fill in all the fields, it builds out that line. Well, when I hit enter, in PowerShell, as long as I have no red, I know my command executed properly. Now I'm going to go to my network connections, and I'm going to click on Change Adapter Settings, and that PS-VPN client is in the list. I could also undo any of these. If I'm looking at my SMB share commands again, one of my commands in SMB is remove SMB share. Now, I could click on remove SMB share here in my commands pane, and I could fill in these fields. I could also just specify the syntax of this. Now, you can almost guess at this and typically be correct. The command to create the SMB share was new-SMB share-name sales-path. That is very basic. If I want to remove the share, we're just going to freehand the command. So remove-SMB share. I'll click tab to finish that off. The share I want to move is named sales. So I'm going to type remove-SMB share-name sales. It'll ask me here in the confirm, are you sure you want to perform this action? Performing this operation, remove share on target sales. Well, yes, I'm sure. So I'm going to say yes to all. Now, if I run that get-smb share command again, notice sales is no longer in the list, so that's unshared. The VPN client we looked at has the same type of configuration. If I go to VPN client and look at all the commands, there's a remove VPN connection. I could specify that, and I could type the name of that connection, which was ps-vpn client. If I can spell that correctly, ps-vpn client. I'm going to click insert, and it builds that name. So back in my network connections, I'm going to just double check the name of that. Yeah, so I have this ps-vpn client. When I run my PowerShell, I'll just hit enter for that. Deleting this VPN connection PS client. Do you want to continue? Well, yeah, I want to continue. So I'm going to click yes. And now when I go back to network and sharing, that client is actually gone. So PowerShell is very simplistic. What I suggest, if you want to be more fluent in PowerShell, an easy way to do that is come to this tool and play around. Like I created a VPN client. We created a shared folder just on your personal machine. This PowerShell ISE is actually on Windows 10. So you could go to this on your client machine and go through the list of modules you have, choose some commandlets, build some things out, look at the syntax, make sure it executes, then just freehand some of these PowerShell commands to help you get up to speed. Now, a few other things in this ISE. One is this scripts pane at the top. If you click this scripts, this arrow, it expands this scripts pane. If you have a PowerShell script that maybe someone else wrote, and you need to go through the script line by line and look for errors because the script does not execute properly, you could actually go to File, Open, and you could browse for a script, and it'll give you the entire syntax of the script here in an easy view, and it actually runs what amounts to a spell check against your script. So if you have any invalid commands in your script, it'll actually underline it to let you know that's not a valid command. So that makes troubleshooting very easy. In the next section, we're going to look at PowerShell remoting so I can see how to connect my PowerShell prompt to a remote computer.